Welcome to East Meets West. And today, as usual, I always have a lot of special guests that shares their insight on leadership. And the program is all about developing leaders. It's all about adding value to people. And I do have someone that is going to be giving you some insights. So take some notes, take even your questions that you can post it for us to respond to you. But today we have with us my good friend Troy, and I'm not sure if I should say Pastor Troy, but yes. But Troy, I think with what few years now we've known each other, and we were in a different class. In fact, an immersion class in Honduras, and we met in few other areas too. But Troy is very unique, and I think he connects a lot with people. Like my daughter is also connected with Troy, and could relate. So it tells about Troy a lot. And Troy has been in the U.S. Marine, and he worked also in faith-based organization, churches, and nonprofits. He's a great leader. He's a consultant that work with also different companies or organization in bringing change and transformation to them. He is currently also leading, as a pastor in I think it's Green Bay Community Church. And he is currently also pursuing his doctoral degree, which soon will be called Dr. Troy. And he is also a senior consultant for leadership development company called Transformed Leaders. So our program is all about transforming lives and bringing change, positive change that is to people, and to keep adding value. So I know today Troy has some, from his experience, 40 years doing, all of this work, whether it's through church leadership or through an organization of maybe for-profit organization working with, and even for his own business too, that some of his experience in this leadership aspect, and how he has overcome it. So we're going to talk a little bit about leading change, and about transformative efforts that is being done by organization to bring change in their spheres. So, Troy, welcome. And usually I do ask everyone to add some more because I don't think I do justice to their bio. But Troy, welcome to East Meets West. And please do share any other thing that you think we should know about you.
Oh gosh, thank you, Shanti, and so honored to be able to talk to you about, well, and your friends about leadership. Something I have four daughters. Uh, after being in the Marine Corps, I think God wanted me to have four daughters, and so I had to learn I couldn't command them. And something else unique about, I have four grandkids, and I own a brewery also. And so that's pretty unique for me, especially in the role I'm in as a pastor. But yeah, so glad to be with you guys today.
Yeah. I think this whole perspective too, when you said a brewery, I, you know, sometimes judgment will pass on what's a pastor, yes, that. I'm just curious, like, how do you navigate that kind of conversation?
Yeah, that's a great question. Green Bay, I grew up in Los Angeles. So I was born in Hawaii. I was a military kid. And one of the things I learned, which we all learn from our how we grow up, your story actually shapes how you operate as a leader, both negatively and positively. And one of the things I learned early on from my father, who was not very good at being a father, he kind of showed me what I didn't want to be. And we would go to a church on Sunday, but Monday through Saturday, it was not modeled. And so I always said, whatever I'm going to do, I want to be consistent. And one of the things I love is being out in the world, in the culture. And I think culture is really important about wherever we're using our leadership content in that context. So in Green Bay, have been the drunkest city in America 2 years running. I don't think that's a good award, but we also got rated 2 years ago the best city to live, which I think the drunk people probably took that test. Anyway, uh, what we decided was if we couldn't get people to walk into our faith, place of faith, how would we go to them? And when you look at like pub culture in Europe, largely it's around a communal connection. And we said, what if we built a brewery that would have the value of being connected, being seen, being heard, being listened to? And so myself, my wife, and four other couples decided, let's do it. We're all of faith, and we use it that way. And it's become a center in a small village that has been very family, very communal, and really a lot less about drinking, a lot more about connecting.
Wow. I'm see, this is why I said it's very transformative kind of mentality that Troy has, and what he's doing. And for me, I think it's like thinking outside the box, that this is not, it's been done like this all the years, and we need to do it the same way all the time. But you're coming up with a different solution because things are changing, and how do we meet people? And I really, I like hearing stories like that, what people are doing differently. But tell us, this whole aspect of organization or leadership, and some of your stories that you can share, lessons from the field per se, and what did you learn from it that we could also learn from?
Shanti, that's a huge question. So I'll just start to dive in and stop and add as you will. But again, we're all shaped by our stories. And a lot of the leadership that we have learned is over the years. And so now at 61 years old, I've learned a lot of things through a lot of mistakes, a lot of great mentors, and a lot of great examples. Through that time, there are a few, I think, kind of transformative, I'd say, principles that I've had to learn and unlearn. So I think sometimes we're trying to learn things, but also sometimes we're trying to unlearn things. I think coming out of my chaotic father relationship, I wanted to control situations. And so the military, when I went into the Marine Corps, was really fun for me. It was actually really energizing because it had structure and it was all about control and order. And so you can see as I transitioned out of the military and went into an organization, went into family, went into a marriage, went into personal relationships, uh, control and order don't exist because you're dealing with people. And I think one of the biggest mistakes we make in culture is we treat people like robots. So one of the things we do at Transform Leader is we talk about the four dimensions of a human. Whether you have a faith or not, we'd all agree we have a mind. We all agree we have a body that we can do things. We all agree we have some sort of belief center. It's kind of what gets us out of bed, and that we call that the soul. And then last would be heart. And that's where we feel things. We want to be connected. And so when you look at that, most organizations operate, and we operate what's called out of mind and strength. We want to learn things and we want to do things. And what we find ourselves is saying, don't bring home to work or don't bring work home. Don't be human. And so don't feel things or ask a lot of questions about why and don't bring your beliefs in. There's a great Apple series. It's his second season called Severance. And it's a great sci-fi because what it talks about, this company that formed a chip they could put in your brain, and when you rode down the elevator, you would forget everything about your personal life outside of that place. Then when you rode back in the elevator, you would forget everything at work. Well, how great is that? That would be amazing if we could pull that off in leadership to disconnect our humanness and our relationships and our worlds. So one of the biggest lessons I learned was I couldn't treat people like military control and order. You're dealing with emotions. You're dealing with people with stories. And that is a lot of work. It's one thing to talk about how to be more efficient. We all the different Six Sigma and 360 and all these performance evaluators and formats that and frameworks that help us get better at what we're doing. So it's mind and strength. But there's not a lot of work out there in organizational development, what's called heart and soul. And I find that's below the waterline. That's harder work. So one of the biggest lessons I've learned is more of my energy these days is in heart and soul in leadership development with an organization than it is mind and strength. Because I could get a lot of people to do the finances. I can get a lot of people to get, hey, let's get more efficient. But man, to sit with an employee, to sit with a peer, to sit with a daughter, with a wife, with a spouse, and say, tell me what you're feeling today. Seems like you're projecting something that is displeasing to you. What's going on? Man, they get to share. You get more connected. And studies show that when we're more connected in heart and soul with the people we do life with and work with, they become more productive because they feel seen, known, and heard. That's one, I wouldn't call that a small nugget. I'd call that a big learning in my own life. And so at 61, I spent a lot of time managing a board, heart and soul, managing a staff, heart and soul, managing a stewardship team for finances, heart and soul, managing a lead team, heart and soul. And that's where that stuff becomes, that kind of work becomes more transformative.
So as a, I would say, a trainer to and from facilitating also different training, mentoring in organization. Something that I've noticed with many people is that when you talk about heart, nobody wants to hear that.
No.
As we said, leave it at the door, leave it home. But how do you connect with people and what I'm here? And
Yeah.
one of the strategies is actually about, if I may say strategy, but one of the strategy is actually relationship building
Yeah.
and getting to know your people. And so many times too, when I talk to organization leaders and you ask them, when last did you had a one-to-one with your people? When last did you even had a meeting? And some organizations don't even have meetings, so people don't know them. And it does come across as if it's just human doings and instead of human beings.
Yeah.
But this whole aspect to sometimes take a swing where they say that, okay, you're concentrating only on the people, but what about our results? So we're not getting the results as a company. Can the company survive? And we could be nice all the time and doing all these great things, getting along with each other, but then no results. Have you experienced anything like that, per se, in an organization, or someone speaking like that, and what do you say to them?
You're 100% right, Shanti. What I find is often, oh, we're talking feelings. We don't want this kind of consulting. We actually want to make more money and get more efficient. And so what we talk about is, well, go ahead and do another lap. Go ahead and do another lap, and we'll see you when you feel the pain of transition, turnover. And when people don't realize if you don't do this hard work, you're going to lose people. You're going to lose efficiency and effectiveness. So we can easily tie it to performance, but someone's going to want to do that work because it feels weak or soft. But I would tell any CEO, any CFO, anybody that's in, C-suite kind of leadership, when's the last time you had a fight at home with your spouse or your kids and it affected your day at work? Okay, so maybe someone doesn't sit there and do counseling with you, but would have been nice if your supervisor or a peer would have said, hey, Shanti, are you okay today? Is something going on? And you had the chance to say, gosh, I'm angry at my spouse. I'm sad and I'm hurt. And you just to go, man, thank you for sharing. Do you need anything from me? Man, I need some time off, or you know what? I need some advice, or I don't know. It just, you're treating someone more human. And studies show that when we do that, you get more out of the person than you could ever strategize and just use them as you said, a human doing. And so it's easy to tie to performance, but it's it's probably I would say, a space that most strong leaders try to avoid. Now, I will say it's because we're afraid of some of it. So I had to do, again, one of the things you asked of me to share stories, one of the ways I had to transition was I needed people in my life that said, "Hey, Troy, can we tell you how we experience you? You want to ask a crazy question, Shanti, or for your listeners, ask your spouse or your peers, hey, can you tell me what's it like to be you and experience me?" Now, most people don't want to, and you probably have to ask it 3 times because they'll be nice the first time. They'll be confused when you ask it the second time, and then they may give it to you the third time. And when you do that, just and I would hear, Troy, you're hard to connect to. You're so intense. You're so driven. Uh, Everything is like fix it and drive and drive and drive. So I had to go back and go, where did that come from? Where did I start to believe the lie about myself and others that work harder and faster and know more and do more was actually going to be good for me and other people around me? So I literally had to do what I would call story work. And again, for a lot of top leaders, the reason they're driven is because they're avoiding their story and their story is affecting them. I had to go back to my story. I had a dad that never showed up to any of my sports games. I had a dad that the only way to pay attention to me if I screwed up or I can impress one of his friends. So what did I learn? I better be impressive and I better not screw up. Man, and I'm a learner and I'm still out today that there's a drive in that. But I had to realize that does very little in relationships. In fact, it pushes them away. So I would say to your question, do I find resistance? Yes, but I don't sell what we do. I will look at someone, and I heard from a friend years ago as he was sitting in a counseling office. Yeah, yeah, I don't know if that's for me. And the counselor said, okay, well, go ahead and take another lap or two. I might see you in 2 years when you've lost your spouse because it's a divorce, or you've had so much turnover in your organization, or you're so lonely and depressed, you want something more from out of your work. And usually someone has to get to the end of themselves before they're ready to do this work. But what I have found in organizations, whether faith-based or secular, the idea of being known and seen is more and more common to like your daughter's age, Shanti, that generation saying, "Hey, I'm willing to sacrifice the money and the position for a place that knows me and sees me." And I'm telling you, you will get the production out of people. You'll be surprised.
Something do I need to caution everyone. This isn't about talking about how to manipulate people to get what you want, but to intentionally, genuinely want to interested in your people, how they're doing,
Yeah.
how that you do care in a sense, right? I keep hearing a lot about this word valued in organization especially, and people say, well, I don't feel valued. It doesn't look like anybody value what I'm doing here, and it's like if there's a cry for being recognized in what you're doing. And so sometimes that is what people just want to hear from you, that
Yeah.
I see you.
Yeah.
I see what you're doing. I recognize it.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful that you're on my team, or the things you're bringing to the team, and or just even just showing up, playing your part here. That
Yeah.
I see what you do. But indeed, but this whole aspect here, especially some of the organizations or the leaders that I've interacted with in my country, because again, I have so many things happening right now, and everybody seems to be so busy. Right there's so many things going on in everybody's life rapidly now, and so leaders are saying they don't have time for that.
Yeah.
That there's no time for me to sit down with the staff, or I have HR people and to deal with stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and I think the the space to be productive is so much higher today. Like we want results now. And you see that in the sports industry. You see it like how quickly they want results. You know, you can't just be good one year. You've got to win the Super Bowl every year. And so the demand to be productive and profitable is so high. I'm going to go back to something you said though too about manipulation. And one of the ways that that's very visible and evident, it's a thing we say at Transform Leader. You cannot give to someone else something you don't have for yourself. If I don't care for my own life and interested about my own emotional well-being, I won't care for anybody else. And so often what we do in our culture is mind and strength again. So what we'll do is, oh, I need to be better at that. So I get my employees to work harder. I'm going to read a book and I'm going to perform EQ. I'm going to perform care. And you can't just perform care. You've got to have it for yourself. And this gets back into that heart and soul work. So it's really important for leaders to know, do for yourself first what you hope for from other people, because then you can give it to them. And so that's why I shared my own journey through trauma work, some counseling, a lot of work in my own journey. It made me a better leader because then I could truly be interested in other people. The other point you make about our culture now is true. I mean, it seems like every year because of information and AI and all the things that are available. Now, the speed at which things are changing is crazy. So, after the Cold War, the U.S. Army War College came up with this acronym, and I think it's really kind of a cool thing to think about called VUCA, VUCA. And VUCA is really intriguing because it says we live in a world now that's volatile, uncertain, it has complexity and ambiguity. And I think today, the leaders today have to learn how to emerge and be agile in that kind of an environment. And I like the four things that they talk about, that you have to be anchored in your own identity and who you are. And that's where leadership development for an organization isn't just about things I know, it's actually things I'm practicing. It says for a volatile culture, first you need vision. You've got to have a really unrelenting focus on your vision of what you're hoping for. If all you care about is profit, well, that's going to upset a lot of the apple cart in your culture. You've got to have a deeper purpose for your future. For uncertainty, you have to have clarity and understanding, getting feedback and perspective, and refining plans. And in the midst of a culture, learning to how to collaborate. In complexity, the C, you've got to create a plan. You've got to create clarity. And I don't know about you, Shanti, but I'm finding the whole idea of writing a 2-year plan, a 5-year strategy, everything is emerging so fast, and you have to be able to turn on a dime. So I'll just give you an example because you wanted stories. In the church culture that I'm working in right now, and I've been there 16 years, I have 25 on our staff. There's about 2,000 people at our church. We have a refugee congregation using our facility from Congo, 150. One of those gentlemen started a nonprofit called Sawa Sawa, and they've all been brought over by the US. Now they've stopped that of recent, but they have jobs that were really, they were brought over for these jobs that are really hard. They're assembly line, they're on their feet all day. Well, if you would have asked me a year ago that we'd be starting underneath our church as an LLC, a cleaning business, because a company in our church owns 4,000 apartments and needs good cleaners. Well, this congregation has no problem cleaning. They love it. They're very proud of getting any kind of work. And so we've had to move and flex and then even ask the questions, can a church have an LLC? Can we have a for-profit business? What does that mean? Man, how are we going to make this work? And it's been amazing to watch that come together. So I think refining plans. The last is in a culture of ambiguity. And that's where I just think being flexible and collaborative. It's kind of what I just said, but that's a story of one thing we've done. And I think the brewery was another one. Let's adjust and flex. You know, if I, and again, my church culture isn't meant to say that transition's over, but think about it. If in your business you just wait for people to use your services or buy your product, you're in trouble. You actually have to figure out how to go out and get them, how to go out and sell to them, go out and attract them. And often that's your sales force, your marketing force. In our setting, we said the same thing. How do we go out and be a part of culture instead of waiting for culture to come to us? And I think that principle works in any organization.
Hmm, it's interesting. I love how you put it over. But I know that we're coming up on our time. Are there any other lessons that you want to share on?
Gosh, I mean, I have a ton of lessons and a lot of black eyes. I've learned some things like uh, people are people, and they will, no matter how great you think things are, people are still in their growth plan, in their development, and they can leave you at any time. And I'm going to say family, good friends. And so hurt and pain and feelings that we have, even as employers, because we think, oh, well, I hired him and now we're done and we'll do this for a long time. But especially in this culture, it's very uncertain, and you may hold on to somebody for 3 years and they're done. And so I've learned embrace the time you have and be a sender of people. Hey, we want to walk with you. So if Shanti, you were on our staff and you you came to me and said, "Hey, I think I'm just done with this job." And I'd say, "Hey, great. Could we be a part of that with you and not get rid of you right away, but be a part of that journey to help you get to that next space?" And I've just learned that does a lot for the people that are still there and then the people that will be hired again. And I've often have those same employees return back. Hey, I had this job, but can I come back? I want to work back in your environment. And so I think that's been a big lesson for me. Probably another little one is if you're a planner and a strategy person. I mean, I my brain goes on 100 miles an hour. I'm always thinking of strategies, solutions, diving deeper in our organization. But I've learned if I show up to our staff and I've already put in 8 hours of that work and I say, here it is, I lose the room. I have no buy-in because they're basically just hearing, here's what we're doing. Okay, let's just buy into what Troy wants. And I would even ask for feedback. What do you think? Well, what do you think they're going to say? I've just spent 8 hours processing it and they're like, that. So what I've tried to do more often now, because I'm definitely a strategy person, I show up real time to our staff. Hey, I'm thinking about something. I haven't put any time into it. Are there any thoughts in the room? Anybody want to be a part of the journey with me in planning for this? And I just think that kind of collaboration has created so much more buy-in in our staff. That's another little nugget. One, probably the other one is, uh, it's confessing my own control. It doesn't have to be done my way or, um, I don't always do it best. I mean, I'm pretty multi-talented, and I think there's a lot of things I can do better than some of the people I have on our staff. But I have to go back to the VUCA and say, what's the vision? My vision isn't to do everything the best. The vision is how do I train people to do their best? And so that's another nugget I think I've had to learn, and it's taken me probably 60 years to learn it.
Well, this is why we have this program. The things that we are learning, people don't need to take so long to learn it either. So we could learn from each other and move on faster, per se. But yes, so try, I love the conversation and, your thoughts that you brought out is very applicable and realistic right now into what's happening, not only in my country, but I would say in around the world, what's happening. But thank you so much for sharing those lessons. And I know our viewers also would have gotten some points out of what you said there. And before we close, is there any closing remarks you'd like to make or anything
Well,
you
I would just encourage anybody. Leadership is really based on who you are, and my belief is you were created with something to offer the world to make it more beautiful, benefit others, and bring goodness. And so I think there are a lot of leadership skills you can learn, but getting a mentor, getting someone like Shanti, transform leader, picking up books, all good things, but it's growing who you are. The goal isn't to be like someone else. The goal is to be you and how you were created. So I love that. There's a diversity in leadership that we could all embrace in this world.
I always say that too, and I don't tell people to do things that I don't do. I have a lot of mentors. One of my mentors, you know very well too, Dr. Dot. And so, I have other coaches that I work with too, and it's something that we all do need. We want to keep growing, is being open-minded, that you can learn from anyone,
Right.
including your staff, if you didn't know that part. But yeah, people don't see that, and it's not about your way all the time. And listening to others, get their buy-in. It's easy to get their buy-in when the idea is coming from them, by the way. So practicing those things. So I want to thank you, Troy. Thank you so much for your time. I know you've been very patient with me and setting up this session here. But we do appreciate you. We're gonna ask our viewers, to share this program and also share your thoughts, questions that Troy and myself can keep adding value to you too. And put anything in the comment there below and let us be able to connect. So thank you again. See you guys in our next program when it's coming up. And all the best, Troy, in all the things you're doing. And I would love to hear more about it as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you.